Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Reservation Dogs is a new show that just finished up the last episode of season 1, out now on Hulu, also Netflix, not Netflix, Hulu and FX. Another great FX show. I've said many times, I've talked about Dave. Season 1 and season 2 are both amazing seasons of TV. One of my favorite, actually my favorite show so far. And this one is probably my number 2 favorite show. I can't think of another show that's quite as good as Reservation Dogs. It is just full of characters that I love, from the 4 main characters played by these kids that live in a reservation. They are Native American. There's also characters throughout the town. You're seeing all the different notable people and relatives that are involved with the day-to-day living in this reservation that's located in where is it? Oklahoma, Eastern Oklahoma. Never been to Oklahoma. But it's interesting. That's another advantage of the show. It's like, in so many ways, the show is giving a fresh, new perspective on a kind of a teenage coming-of-age TV show in a way. I don't know if it's necessarily would be described as coming-of-age, but they're definitely teenagers that want to get out of Oklahoma. They want to get out of the reservation, and they are California dreaming, to quote a Chili Pepper song. They all want to get out and go to California, mainly because the 5th member of their group left. Like, we don't really know exactly what happened to him. I mean, maybe we do. I don't think it was very forward. It wasn't mentioned very, very openly what happened to him, but you do find out later on in the show, in the season. But yeah, it's a great show. It's created by Sterlin Harjo, and also Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi, I think, has like a pretty much open door policy over at FX to create shows, and both him and Sterling are both directors who became friendly going in the whole film festival circuit. And they're buddies, and this is a story that Sterlin Harjo wanted to tell. And it's a story that relates to him. It's a very personal story, growing up on a reservation. So yeah, I love this show. It did take, like, because it was released in your standard weekly installments, versus the binge model that Netflix has. It did take a couple episodes to kind of understand the vibe of the show, because the first 2 episodes, it focused a lot on one of the kids, specifically Bear, and it almost felt like it was going to be a show that was about him and his friends, and then the bigger community around them and the town itself. But pretty quick, it turns, you see that the show really takes its time focusing on all of the characters. They all kind of get their moment, their episode, to kind of flesh them out as characters. But I love it. These 4 kids are great. I mean, the first episode, it starts with them stealing a chip truck. So it's like, which is it gave off this vibe, like they're all trying to save money so they can go to California, and the show just kind of gave off this vibe that it's going to be like more goofy than it was, maybe, because there's also, like, Bear gets beat up and he has these visions of a Native American mentor guy, ghost guy, coming to give him advice. But yeah, it's who is that guy that shows up? Let me see if I can find his name. Is it John Proudstar as Leon? I could be wrong. I'm not sure who exactly plays that character, but those first 2 episodes did I don't know. Rewatching the season, I really knowing where it goes, knowing the tone, knowing the vibe, also getting to know all of the characters, the kids involved, and everything. The second viewing of this season was even better. I really enjoyed it. It does have a level of comedy. I mean, it is a Taika Waititi. It does have, like, if you enjoy Taika Waititi stuff, it's not as, like, funny as what we do in the shadows kind of a thing. It's not necessarily a straight up comedy because there is definitely some just dramatic moments that happen, but it is more lighthearted. It is a lighthearted view of I mean, it's not really lighthearted, but it's definitely these kids having fun, being kids. There's a rival gang in the reservation. These kids that just moved there from somewhere else. And they're beefing with their crew, the original crew, the crew that gets named Reservation Dogs, by two side characters that are hilarious. These two, I don't know if they're twins or they're just both like really short, really short. They look like twins, but they're like a rap duo that just like show up here and there throughout the season, which is fun. I mean, all of these, like, it's a show where all of the characters, the setting, everything, it's like a show where I enjoy being around all these people, being in this place, seeing all of the things that go on. Not that I'd want to move there, but through the miracle of television, being transported into a bit of what that life is, and those people, it's heartwarming, obviously. Great characters. So yeah, they're hustling to save money. There's an episode, a few comics are in this actually. You got Bobby Lee shows up as a doctor working in a clinic, which is, I mean, I've only seen Bobby Lee in a few things. I'm a huge fan of Bobby Lee. Tiger Belly, Nosotros Papaya. I should have worn my Tiger Belly shirt today. If I had thought a little bit more about how I produce the show in general. Bobby Lee shows up, which is great. And if there's a second season of this show, which it feels like there's going to be, I think on IMDb it has like a season 2 area set up. So if they do, I can imagine Bobby Lee getting a little bit more screen time. You also have Kirk Fox, who is like Kirk Fox. Every time he shows up in a show, whether it's Parks and Recreation or Reservation Dogs, he is great. In this show, he runs a not a junkyard, he runs a salvage yard, because there's hope for the future for some of that junk. But yeah, he's also potentially a meth dealer. Who knows? But yeah, great. He's great in this show. And then also Bill Burr shows up as a driving instructor. One of the characters, Alora, is going, trying to get her driver's license because they want to drive to California. And Bill Burr, who apparently used to be her basketball coach, is now a driver's ed, or works for the DMV. I guess that would be right, doing the driver's tests. And I love Bill Burr. Bill Burr is in a lot of great shows, a lot of great movies. I enjoyed him in King of Staten Island. I thought that was I really enjoyed that movie, but I thought his part in that movie was great as well. The only problem I have, and he's great in this show, but the only problem I have with Bill Burr in this show, a little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. But the only problem I have with Bill Burr in this show is the fact that Bill Burr has a very unique and a very strong accent. Like, it is unmistakable, the Bill Burr voice. And in this show, he's trying to do, I imagine, an Oklahoma accent. And there are his accent drifts wildly between basically Bill Burr, his natural voice, and this accent that he's trying to do, depending on the scene. So in some scenes, it's super heavy. Some scenes, it's like this weird in-between area. Even the actress that's playing beside him, Alora, the character Alora, one of the four kids, one of the four reservation dogs, even her accent gets thick in some scenes, it's a heavy episode. Not involving Bill Burr specifically, but it's the episode with Bill Burr that is a very heavy episode. A heavy piece of the story gets dropped in this episode. You find out what happens to the fifth member of the Reservation Dogs before they were named Reservation Dogs, the man named Daniel. You see what happened to him. And you see why Alora is so passionate about getting out of California, where some of her other friends, especially towards the end of the season, are much more hesitant. You know, it's hard to leave the place you grew up. It's hard to move in general. Much easier at the age of these kids. They're all, I think, just graduated high school. They're all 18, I believe, somewhere around that age range. Maybe a little older. I don't know. But yeah, Bill Burr's accent is rough. I would have just been completely fine with him doing just his own. Like, people, for whatever reason, there can be a line that describes why somebody with a thick Boston accent shows up. I believe it's Boston that Bill Burr, shows up in Oklahoma. Like, he went from coaching basketball, now he's working at the DMV. So, like, things, and there's a situation with his daughter and a meth head, kind of an issue. So it's like things aren't going great for Bill Burr's character in general. So for whatever reason, if they wanted to have him just have his normal speaking voice, I think it would have been better, because it was distracting. It was I enjoyed that Bill Burr was in it. I enjoyed seeing all of these comics show up in this show because they are great. I mean, everybody in the show is great. There is not a loose end anywhere in this show. It is just so good. So you have Bear. He's like his dad is a rapper, left. You see his mom and her relationship with the dad, the deadbeat dad, who is a somewhat successful rapper. In one episode, the town is trying to get him to come and perform. And it's an episode where Bear is all excited to see his dad, but it's also an episode where you see what kind of a person his dad is and how much of a flake he is, and but you get to see that you definitely get to see Bear and his family dynamic. He's got a great mom trying to do the best she can raising him. And he, in that episode, Bear's all excited to see his dad. He spending all this money that they've been saving to go to California, which makes Alora a little mad, because out of the four of them, she definitely has much more drive to get out of there, much more drive to, in some ways, run away. Kind of get away from the problems instead of facing them, I guess. I don't know. I've moved a bunch of times, so there's a lot of motivations that can inspire one to get out and go somewhere. Um, but yeah, so you get to see Bear, his dad, his mom. You get to see Alora, and you get to see she basically this Daniel, who is the brother of Willie Jack, who is amazing. There's two female characters in this group and two male characters in the reservation dogs, Alora and Willie Jack. But Daniel is Willie Jack's brother, and Alora had a bit of a crush on him. It seemed like, not like, but he seemed pretty bipolar, I guess, when you think about it. Like, he definitely, in moments where you get to see Daniel, there's some like flashback moments where they're remembering times with him, that he would just get really manic. Like, there's a scene where he's out hunting with his sister and his dad, and he, just gets really loud and annoying. And there's a time where another scene in another episode where he's hanging out with Alora, and they go to a bar, and he gets a little drunk and gets a little rowdy on the dance floor, let's say. But she had a crush, so it crushes even more when you find out that he. Spoilers. Should I spoil or not? Well, let me not yet. I mean, I've said a lot of things. Definitely go see the show. And maybe they do allude to it more so in the show leading up to the events, because the episode where you find out what happens to Daniel is towards the end of the season. So let's just say he checked out early. Put it that way. Brutal scene. Not a brutal scene. I mean, it's not like overtly graphic or anything, but it's heartbreaking, the scene, because you see Alora, she's the one that finds him, and it's because she had that crush on him, it's even more impactful, and that's why it gives her. I mean, that episode gives her. It really puts into context why she was acting so determined in previous episodes, specifically with the money, Bear spending the money when his dad's coming in. Then you have the other two characters, which I absolutely love. You got Willie Jack, who's like Skoden. I mean, it's the slang of the show. It's kind of reminds me a lot. The slang and just the way they just the subtlety to the differences in the way they speak, which I'm sure it is partly growing up on a reservation, and then also Oklahoma. Everywhere's got their own little kind of slang terms. It reminded me a lot of Hawaiian pidgin. A little bit more heavy-handed with the pidgin in Hawaiian, but it has that same kind of vibe to it. But yeah, Willie Jack is awesome. Of course, the sister of Daniel. She's in a lot of ways kind of like the no nonsense rock of the group. Like, I don't know, but also like down to throw down. She's seems pretty, got her head on her shoulders. She's got, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. I love all of these characters. But Willie Jack, she's got like this. She's got an edge to her. There you go. She's got an edge to her, which I really appreciate. And then you get to see her. There's episodes where she's hanging out with her dad, going hunting. This whole bonding episode where they're also remembering Daniel while they're out hunting and whatnot. That's a really fun episode. And then you get the other fourth is Cheese, who is the overweight friend in the group, but adorable. This dude is, when he introduces himself, he tells everybody his pronouns in a very unannoying way, like in a way where, oh yeah, it would make sense, I guess, if, as far as the new generation and people in general really wanting to categorize every version of human existence when it comes to gender, sexual preference, all of these things that are all spectrums There is a real need to categorize everything and get everything a label. But the just kind of the effortlessness of him, kind of when he's, I mean, it's a great character trait. Also, it's the only character I've seen that's told people their pronouns and it not feeling weird, but also kind of funny. But there's an episode where he's doing a ride along with the town or the reservation cop, who's Big is his name. So he's doing like a ride along with him, and they pull over the rival gang, and you get to see Cheese talking shit. Hilarious. Like he's a very like, he seems like on the surface he seems soft and vulnerable, but he has a hidden edge to him also, which I appreciate. I love all of these characters. The rivals are interesting. Alora kind of forms a bond with one of them because she wants to get out of the reservation also. So they both have a common bond and a common desire to get out of that place, which I really enjoy. It's like the story, the characters, the location, all of these things, that just the way they speak, the authenticity to everybody's, the way they talk, everything. Even when they go to Kirk Fox's salvage yard, sorry, the characters that work there are like everybody. It's like, I don't know. It's a show that I really enjoy. Like every aspect of this show, in a lot of ways, similar to like Ted Lasso, where it's just like not necessarily so overly injected with positivity like Ted Lasso is, but at the same time, it's like a bunch of characters that I really enjoy all of, and they all have their different. I would say this show definitely has, the characters are far more interesting. And really fleshed out well, and I'll be interested to see what they do with season 2, because at the end of this season, Alora and Rita bounce, and they leave everybody else there. It's like an episode. There's a tornado happening. You got Willie. You got Alora's cousin uncle, who has an episode with them as well. But in the tornado episode, he's trying to do a ritual, trying to fight away the tornado that's coming. But in that episode, a lot of the members of the reservation dogs, come clean that they don't want to leave. They come to the realization that they don't want to leave. And it makes sense because we've seen them exist in this place, and it's a home for them. Not only it's home, but it's like the town and the people and their friends. It's family. Tough to leave that. I mean, if you don't have family, if you don't have those connections, way easier to bounce from a place. And, especially if you're somebody maybe like Alora, who's dealing with a lot of trauma from seeing her crush dead by his own hands. It's to get out of that, it'll be interesting to see. Because I like Laura, so I don't know, like she leaves and then maybe season 3 she's gone for an episode and then she comes back because things didn't work out, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe she's just gone. I enjoyed her as a character, but I could see them, like even in the rival gang, we don't really get to know any of those people at all. Like Rita, probably the most out of all of them. But there's one guy who's White Steve. He's like the only white guy in town other than Bill Burr and I guess Kirk Fox and the Tweakers. But yeah, White Steve is like, there's the scene where everybody's hiding indoors from the tornado, trying to stay safe. And they're all entertaining each other, doing like, you have the twins rapping and then you have White Steve rapping. So it's like, even though they're a rival gang, they're still like in the community. they're still, I mean, it's like, it's like they go to the same school, but they're in different cliques in some ways. I don't know. I really enjoy the show. I'm looking forward to season 2, season 3. Keep that show going. I want to see what they do. I mean, the writing's great. Visually, it's amazing. I mean, not like, it's shot really well, I should say. It's not really breaking any boundaries with that, but it's shot really well. The acting is amazing. All of the characters, even the warrior hallucinations that Bear has. I'd love to see him come back. There's a lot of people I'd like to see more of. Same thing with Bobby Lee. Come on. There's a lot of things that can happen. It's a show that there's like so many cool aspects to the show with characters and what's going on that it seems like there's a lot of fun potential for a lot of fun things for the story to do. So I'm looking forward to it. Highly recommend checking it out. It's on Hulu. It's also on FX. But you can binge it now on Hulu. It's called Reservation Dogs. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!